Okay, let's get started. Chris, thanks for being with us here today. And we'll probably start with short introductions to kick this off before like kind of getting into the juicy content. So we're so happy to have you. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Burak, founder of Spiky.AI. I have Chris Anzalone with me, founder of Knowledge AI. So Chris, I would love to hear knowledge from you and like a little bit maybe on your background. Use this 30 seconds, a minute, however you want, man. Thanks for being here again.
Awesome. No, thanks for having me. If I sound a little off, I got a bit of a flu that I'm fighting through. So my background actually was in finance on the quantitative side. Started my career as an analyst and found I had a sort of a natural ability to go out and sell. Pivoted my career towards institutional sales and did well in that for a number of years. And it's interesting. We were always in sales. I think you're always looking for the magic lead, that person that's going to pick up and buy as soon as you speak to them. So very long story short, I ended up opening an agency a couple of years ago, which I subsequently sold. Knowledge was the internal tool that we built to identify who's in market and then go a step further and understand how to communicate with them, how to engage with them on a human level to increase your likelihood of closing.
I think the lead concept, especially in the sales, it has like an overloaded meaning, right? So lead gen activities, we'll talk more, but it became like I don't know, very overloaded term, especially with the advancements in the AI space. So everyone is like right now, oh, I can send 10,000 emails, I can get like the best leads possible, etc. So, like I think the maybe the if maybe we can start with the definition of lead and how it impacts the sales pipeline. I know it's just the beginning of the funnel, top of the funnel, but you know, could you maybe like give a brief overview around like, hey, this is the traditional sales pipelines right now, so we can also educate our like listeners at the same time, but also some hot takes around this lead generation and why these are so important.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you hit on a really good point. The way we look at leads, even at the agency, was very different. Given the proliferation of AI, right now everyone's doing exactly what you're saying. They're sending out 10,000 pseudo-personalized emails and calling each one of those potential prospects a lead. The way we always defined a lead was someone who's actively looking for what you're selling. The harsh reality is, especially with larger companies, if they're not in a procurement cycle and they don't have a budget allocation, you could sell anything in the world. They're not going to buy it. They don't have the ability to do so. They're not that agile in larger corporations. So the traditional SDR function of let's call everyone in our TAM and hope to identify that 3 to 5% that's looking, that's more of a traditional descriptor of a lead. The way we're trying to redefine that at Knowledge is a lead is just the people who you have a high likelihood of converting because they're looking for you already.
This is really interesting because I think technically you can sell anything to anyone, right? Like you said, but there's like all these constraints. I look at sales from a I think technical standpoint. Sometimes like my advisors disagree because like throughout I'm a very technical, I have a very technical education, but it's basically like an optimization problem. So you have constraints and you have some resources. Plus, to be able to solve this problem, you need like certain tools, functionalities, etc. So fundamentally, it's the same. I still like keep telling this, but the lead gen part is especially important because I think in sales we have like this funnel approach, and maybe it's time to change that. And I'll come to that. But everyone is like thinking sales is kind of like this funnel is like a leaky bucket, right? So if you have like 100 leads, then you're gonna get maybe 10 demos and then one sale. So I was like always questioning like, hey, why can't I, reach out maybe 10 people and get 10 demos and then convert 10 of them? So what is the problem here? Is this really numbers game? Is this really like the lead gen game? So I think the knowledge component of this lead gen is the really interesting part. So maybe like let's shift a little bit more on this knowledge part. And I know like you guys have such a good name because knowledge AI and like understanding like basically gaining all these knowledge and putting in pre-sales. So I mean, tell us like the best pre-sales practices, maybe, how you guys differentiate or what people should use today. So floor is yours there, man.
See, I think most technology companies in the SaaS space right now are solving for the wrong problem. You're right on the funnel aspect to it, but they're trying to solve for how to more effectively engage with that top of funnel. That includes the 95% that'll never buy. At Knowledge, we've shifted the focus to focusing on the people that'll actually buy. The way we do that, we're processing between 5 and 7 billion rows of data on any given day, website traffic, and we understand the behavioral habits at an individual level. So not is John Smith, not at is IBM looking for a specific solution. The question is John Smith, the CTO, the one looking? And by identifying that, we could circumvent the whole top of the funnel, redefining the sales process and utilizing limited resources, because ultimately time is your most finite resource, taking the limited amount of time you have and focusing it on the people with the highest probability of closing.
Yeah, that's the people game for sure. Because like most of the time, I hear that a lot from our customers too. In all these like sales methodologies or sales playbooks, they have a thing called like economic buyer slash decision maker, right? So in some cases, the decision maker might be someone C-level, but the buyer, maybe the user will be different, right? Or might one tool might be used by different titles. So it's complex. And I think that's like the really interesting part about the people, right? So you said like you understand those people who might be potential buyers or who might be real decision makers, etc. So do you guys do like only, I don't know, like identifying key people in that company, but also, hey, this person specifically looking for, I don't know, conversation intelligence tool in this company, like, and he's been posting or commenting on LinkedIn, so those type of stuff. So like, how does the process work? Like, tell us a little bit more. I think you touched on a very, important topic, but I want to understand more, like, as an end user, what I actually get from knowledge.
Yeah, so I think the majority of the sales process is done before the sales rep ever gets involved. It's done in the researching phase, it's done in the community phase. We capture that data to identify those people early. So the way knowledge actually works is you input information about your product, you input information about yourself so we could match with the people most likely to engage with you, and you put in your ICP. From there, we go out and we run through about 8,000 websites and what their activity is and identify who is actively researching, consuming content, posting about, reading about the solution that you sell that matches your ICP. We then deliver those people along with close to 3,000 data points to understand who they are as individuals. So we track things like marital status, political affiliation, brand preference, and identify psychometric models to contextualize how you should go out there and speak to them.
Wow, that's crazy. That part is like very interesting because everyone is like talking about, oh, sales, or like I'm not gonna say, I'm not, like, let me define one thing here. I keep saying sales, but I think every customer interaction. So I keep telling like revenue teams, that's my new terminology, because right now the definition of revenue is not just sales, it has customer success. Yeah, I think even it has like product and marketing teams. So I keep saying like the revenue teams, but people in the revenue space, they keep telling there's like an emotional component to it. There's like a psychological component to it. So you are basically, helping us to figure out, because those are really important things. Sometimes like when we were analyzing like millions of hours of like call recordings, what we found out is even like how you start a conversation makes a difference. Like people, like for example, everyone will tell, hey, where do you live, blah blah, but those conversations statistically lead less good conversations future, because like it's very normal, right? It's very mundane for those people. But if you can hit them, hey Chris, I know like you're in New York area, there was a big event going on, something like that. I don't know, this is more personalized.
Yeah, so
This
what
is
I use in the demo is one of the individuals we identify recently watched a number of interviews about a movie called The Chosen. Now, I'd watched The Chosen. It's this weird dystopian robot movie. But for me, in sales, that's my entry point. I'm having a conversation, maybe not top of funnel, maybe not that first initial cold call, but I have somebody back on the phone. I would casually just mention, oh, yeah, I watched this movie over the weekend. Don't know if you checked it out yet, The Chosen. Knowing that they're actively engaging with content about that, by doing that, we're already building rapport and building a relationship at a deeper level than just the, how's the weather in Sacramento?
That's really interesting. One example I had is like I was talking to VP of sales maybe 2 weeks before, and he was like telling me his wife is in medical school. So immediately, like, I have like one friend who's building a solution for like medical students who are like looking for residency, because that's like a very corrupted field. For example, it's there's a big problem. Never mind. I was like, before doing any sort of sales, like I was like, hey, I think there's this type of problem. And he immediately said, oh, okay, yeah, my wife is also like looking for something like that. And we kind of got instantly connected. But if I would have known like that type of an information, like just without selling anything, I could have like leveraged that and kind of helped them. Like I'm also like really, really want to do that because I want to build the relationship there. So you want to give first and you want to understand them. And it's kind of hard when it's online. So you need like some tools that will basically technically help you to understand. And I think this is what you guys are after based on like what I'm understanding there.
Yeah, you need something that differentiates you, right? Like the approach is the same. Everyone's referencing LinkedIn. Everyone's looking at their 10K and saying, "Oh, I see you're trying to increase sales in the Northeast." Ultimately, I would rather know that the prospect coaches their son's little league team over the weekend than know what's in their 10K, because it allows me to build a richer, more human-centric relationship. Look, ultimately, people buy from people. They buy from people they like, and people like people who have shared interests. So
Mhm.
knowledge allows you to cut through all of the noise and identify, okay, where do I have an interest with this prospect? How do we align the conversation and build a real genuine rapport to base the sale off of, instead of just the technical approach to the sale?
That's a good point. Yeah. And one like other thing that I keep hearing from people, I think I'll shift the conversation a little bit, but you mentioned like you collect their ICPs, right? So people often ask me, hey, how do we define our ICP, right? And like let's say I don't know my ICP, can I still like leverage a tool like yours, or like what should I do? Because that's just the I think that's a chicken and egg problem right there. So I don't know how you folks approach that, but I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's your real ICP, and then there's a general sense of who your targets are, right? So you may not know the specific persona that's your buyer, but most people have a general idea of the industries that are buying, whether they're selling to enterprise or mid market. When I define ICP in this context, we ask four questions. What's the title path that you speak to? What management level,
Mm.
C-suite, VP, director? What are the industries that you're targeting, and what's the revenue? So it's still relatively broad, but allows you to sort of take that and bring it down a bit to increase the accuracy of who you're speaking with.
Got you. Yeah, I think like because some people like go by, oh, I have like, 50 filters on my ICP. That's like how a lot of like detailed prospecting tools probably allow you. So you can use Zoom Info, Apollo, like all these like old legacy players. But like people are often confused. Like if you're especially getting started, like for our founder friends out there, they're like, hey, what is my ICP? How do I figure out like who resonates with what? So it's basically what I'm understanding is more like an experimentation, right? So they have like certain ideas, certain gut feeling, and take it and try to apply, try to figure things out there.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is when you're identifying people who are looking for what you're selling, knowing things like what general industry are they in is usually enough, because we're looking at prospecting differently. We're not saying, here's your ICP, let's blanket your entire TAM and then try to find the people that are buying. We're saying these are the people who are actively trying to buy what you're selling. All the ICP is doing is contextualizing that into the group that you're going to speak to.
Got it.
Every single one of those people, though, is actively searching for what the user is selling.
All right, all right. That's yeah. The another aspect is like, do you think pre-sales research tools or like the research market is getting crowded? Like, for example, like tools like Clay, are those like kind of competitor of yours? Like Apollo is launching something, Zoom Info launching something, so those type of stuff. So how do you see the competitive space? Because I want to ask this, like I think it's perfectly fine to be competitors. Like, and I think that's what we should do better as founders. We should just get along with our competitors. The reason is, like, we also confuse customers. Like, I keep like seeing this, like, as a founder, technically you'll say okay to most things that even you cannot solve today, because that's a really hard thing to do, right? Someone is saying, oh, I'm going to give you 100K. If you can do this, they're like, oh, if I get this revenue going, that's perfect. I want to make this happen. But like most of the times, like I'm just telling, even when I'm meeting with our competitors, founders, hey guys, like we just gotta play this game. I think not to confuse people. Yes, money on the table, but let's don't do that. But how do you see the competitive landscape in this pre-sales area? Right now,
I
there's a
think
lot,
I
but
think it's largely redundant, right? Like all of these companies are approaching it the exact same way. Let's do some research on their 10K. Let's do, everyone's getting a flag or a signal when someone's job changes. And what we're saying is there are different signals that are much more likely to lead to a sale than just knowing someone took a new role or got a promotion or switched companies. So we have a partnership with ZoomInfo, actually. We're launching tomorrow our direct integration for that exact reason, to allow us to continue to differentiate, even for ZoomInfo customers, the way that they leverage signals to identify the people to engage with. We're saying, I don't care if this person just got a new job as a VP of whatever. What's much more relevant is the fact that he spent the past 3 days reading white papers about the solution that I sell.
the interesting part about in this domain is like yes, I think there's a redundancy. I think the more redundancy that I'm seeing is so there's like let's divide this into three buckets, right? There is this pre-sales. There's during sales, I call it like real time slash during the meeting, and then the post sales. So I think the first generation recording tools started like a field around, hey, why you should record your calls type of a metaphor, and everyone has like right now 10,000 recordings. That's more like post sales. So where we are at is this the real time aspect during the meeting as well as like the post meeting aspect. But I think these three buckets should be connected to each other. I think personally, I feel like it's very um, fragmented, right? So what I'm seeing here is, let's say technically, you should like integrate tools like Spiky, and let's say the meeting outcome comes back and feedback into like pre-sales research. Let's say you have an hypothesis in pre-sales, right? And did you maybe you verified that hypothesis? Like, okay, this is kind of a very good customer. I'm gonna move this deal ahead, right? And then I think like the feedback loop should go back into the pre-sales research so you can fine tune more. So what do you think about this fragmentation in the like three different buckets that I said, and like how do you envision like the sales technologies gonna become in the upcoming months or slash years?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a great question. What I think has really allowed us to differentiate ourselves is our data set. So like I said, we pull in close to 3,000 data points per prospect. No one has that rich of data into the individuals at the individual level. What Spiky's doing is being able to capture the sentiment, which plays very well, I think, in that feedback loop to not only verify your hypothesis, but find what specific data points led to what emotional responses. Right.
Yes.
So if talking about the weekend little league events with their kid, that resulted in them opening up more about what their needs are, you can see sort of the direct correlation between data and reaction that then goes back to your research. I think research is a constant part of the sales cycle. I think, I when I was in sales, I would use Facebook more than LinkedIn because I think it gives a much more accurate identity to the person that I'm speaking with than what their generic public persona is. So I was constantly throughout the sales cycle looking for new research, looking for new ways to get to bond and further engage in my relationship with our prospect.
Yeah, I think I like the fact that you just said it's like a constant process, right? It's basically dynamic and it can't be static, especially in this, I mean, in today's world, it's changing so fast. And because like technically, I'm imagining like this feedback loops will be super useful for people because they made this, okay, I think I'm selling to B2B SaaS companies doing revenue more than 1 million, maybe 1 to 3 million. Okay, I want to chase these people, but then you do go and like you get meetings with these people. Then there are two key things here. First, are you doing the right things in the meeting, right? So we all have like a discovery playbook. So, okay. So let's say you do all the right things. There's like one outcome is, hey, this is not a good fit. Potentially this is not going to happen. Or if it is a good fit, perfect. I want this data feed into my pre-research phase because I want to talk to people like like this. Seems like I'm getting a good value out of it. So do you think in the current pipelines like that people created, like can people do this?
No, I think people get stuck when a deal stops moving forward in the pipeline. I think they stop iterating, they stop researching, they stop changing their approach, and they start sending the generic, hey, just want to bump this up in your inbox email, because there's nothing to base that conversation on. Now, if you knew they were a Philly fan, there's lots to talk about. You don't have to talk about the deal. You could send an email talking about the Eagles win if you know they're a big fan. So those human data points, I think, ultimately are what's going to differentiate good salespeople. Forget about the technology, but as AI becomes sort of ubiquitous, the people who are going to succeed, the people who are going to have a premium placed on them, are the people who still have those soft communication skills. And ultimately, a lot of that is just being able to get someone to talk, being able to get someone to share about themselves. We found a way to do that at scale by leveraging data.
I do agree. Yeah, I think the so biggest problem in this revenue space right now is redundancy, and we're just creating more and more data without using the existing data. So people already have like billions of data points. Like we were talking to this large enterprise, they have like call recordings for their customer support center, they have their customer success calls, like their QBR check-ins, they have their sales calls. And like I was asking, hey guys, what do you do with these? They're like, it's more compliance and we do a little bit coaching, those type of things. But the problem is we fragmented fragment market more and more, and people get more and more confused. And like everyone is talking about these, like, oh, I want to consolidate my tools into one thing. So I think the problem is not people require consolidation. Tools require consolidation because we try to do like some very minimal things, which is not super useful at scale. Like, oh, I this can generate me a email. There's another SaaS tool for this. Oh, this can organize my inbox. There's another SaaS tool. This can record my calls. Another SaaS tool. So I think people are very confused out there. So that's why I'm like seeing we have to like get things together and use existing data in a way that people can take action on it and feed into related areas. So I always take this, the feed into related areas is like I want to feed Spiky.AI in knowledge because they can do better pre-research. They can upskill their ICPs. Also, what they can do is, oh, I want to basically inform my product team. Like there are like golden nuggets in those type of customer calls, right? You can see what people react to, you can see what people want. Your marketing team loves that. Like imagine like extract all these and create marketing material and like update your website. That's what we did personally. Like everyone was talking about, hey guys, I need something in real time. Like I don't care about post recordings because I can't look at it.
Yeah.
I don't care. So I don't know. This is a very exciting domain. That's what I like to combine all these buckets and make superpower like a so help we can help people.
Yeah, I mean, I figure you're probably like me. I mean, I spend as a founder, and it's interesting. I think everybody should go out and try it once. Take an idea, take the risk, go out and try to build something. It's an unbelievably cool experience. I think people underestimate how challenging it is and the sort of emotional aspect and the pressure. And,
Oh.
I mean, I think that it's challenging. But what I was getting at is, as a founder, the number one resource I have is my customers. So I spend all day long talking to customers. I send out emails to every single person who signs up for Knowledge, just trying to get 15 minutes of FaceTime to understand what they like, what they don't like. And we keep really, really tight notes on all of those things. And then we implement that into our iterations as we further develop the platform. I think what you're highlighting is there are all these great tools that are providing data, but if the data isn't being utilized, it's pointless. What's the point of recording every call if you're not going back and really looking into what works, what doesn't, and allowing that to further guide your process?
I think that boils down into this same topic, this feedback loop. So the current way of coaching is broken. Like current way of
because it's
enablement,
linear.
it's linear. Yeah, there is like no going back, and like you have to be able to coach someone, there should be a loop, right? So you give them suggestion or feedback, they take it or they leave it, let's say. But to drive behavior change, that's what you need. Because most of the time, what happens is, oh, okay, we know how to scale. They come to a point, then they kind of flat, or they try to experiment with 100 things. They spend millions on certain things without going into the core problem. The core problem here is, like you said, there's no feedback, so people can't change the behavior, or can't change the ICP, can't change, like there should be a change. To be able to change something, you should give feedback. You should go back to that recording. Either you watch it, either you automate it, but you have to have like an action item out of that call to guide Burak to be like a superstar. If you don't, like there's no opportunity for me to grow as a person in this company, and you lose talent. The crazy statistics like that I'm seeing about this hiring, like, oh, okay, if you want to hire one SDR, you got to get three. Like, why? It's the same
Yep.
problem as like the top funnel. Like, why am I gonna lose like 90% of my funnel? I think that's the broken way. That's how we build it, and I think that's broken.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a fundamental problem with the way we approach sales. And you're right. It's always been this sort of funnel concept. I think back a lot to like pre-internet, there was always this information asymmetry between the salesperson and between the potential buyer. It was the vacuum cleaner salesman who could say, "Oh, so fortuitous! This is my last vacuum, and I got it at this low price of just $700." So there was this information asymmetry. Then with the birth of the internet, that changed. Now the consumer had all of the information. They could look at reviews and do research, and sales became more challenging. Now we're back in this like renaissance of data. With AI, we have more data than we've ever had before. We're going to get to the point where all of these models use all the available data, and we'll start looking into synthetic data. And it's a really exciting time to be in tech. But with that information asymmetry, now we have all of this data. It's a matter of how we effectively leverage it in our sales process. And there are so many tools, and there are some great tools out there. I
Yeah.
think the two biggest problems is that they're missing that feedback loop. They're missing that iteration of that incremental improvement in process. And I think they're also wildly redundant. I think everybody's trying to build a different mousetrap, a better mousetrap. It's the reason all these legacy companies are struggling so much with their AI initiatives, because they're looking at AI as just another way to do things more effectively. And I think founders are looking at it some from the standpoint of this is a whole new world. We could change the process. We don't need to do the process more effectively. Let's change the process entirely and find a better, more efficient way to get things done. And I think that's ultimately the problem that both Knowledge and Spiky are solving for, right? It's this idea of how do we forget the top of the funnel? There has to be a better way. How do we just focus on the people that are going to buy? When I had my agency, I had some very, very talented reps, but we had such good data. 7 out of 10 of our meetings led to open opportunities for our customers. It's like 3x the industry average.
That is crazy. Yes.
It was because we
That,
were, we were focused exclusively on the people who had the highest propensity of buying. If you're calling somebody who's already looking to buy what you're selling, your likelihood is going to be much higher than the person who just takes the demo because they feel bad you cold called them on a Friday afternoon.
like I think the it definitely resonates with me, and like to just sum that up, I think we people or leaders, like especially in the revenue space, sales, customer success, support, so we are not doing the hard things, so we are escaping them. I think like research is one of them, coaching those people is like another of them, because it's hard. So I always tell people, hey, recording a conversation is the easiest thing that you can currently do today. Like click whatever conferencing platform you're using, they'll take notes for you or record it. Recording is the easiest thing that you can do, but the hardest thing that you can do is literally like just going back and try to figure things out, right? Like make something out of it. Or if that's your SDR call, if that's your account executive call, like as a leader, you should come and say, hey, this was missing. This is what you could have done better, blah, blah. That is the hardest thing. And we think that without doing the fundamental hard thing, we can be successful. that's I think how we brought up this whole interesting mindset in the space. Instead of focusing on quality, we become like a like quantity mindset. That's why like everyone is like, if you don't send 10,000 emails every week, you're done. I'm
Yep.
sending 10,000 emails, but I'm not getting anything either. So like that's whole this cold outreach email is dead, blah blah. So it's probably like another like a webinar series, but this like quality mindset, that's what we need. That's what I'm feeling. We have to do the hard things, especially as leaders.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that you nailed it. Everybody right now is, how do you send 10,000 emails? And they're still looking to get a half of 1% reply rate or a 1% reply rate. So ultimately, they're doing the same function as the SDR, contact a bunch of people to narrow your funnel down to the 3 to 5% that's buying. What I think we're both saying is, one, if you can identify the people who are in that 3 to 5% early, you're way ahead of the game. But more importantly, once you have them in your sales funnel and you're engaging with them, it's a constant process of continuing to build rapport and drive that relationship, because ultimately it's a human being who's going to fill out that DocuSign on the other end. And that person needs to have, you need to have that relationship with that person. Everyone, I've seen people are sending gifts and swag and all of these different things, and that's cool, but I don't think any of those supersede the ability to just have a normal human being conversation.
Right. So maybe, I don't know, like even like I was talking to another VP of revenue enablement the other day, and he was like, just sick. We had a phone call, and he had like a bad day. I mean, personally, like, yes, sales is part of the equation, but I genuinely love connecting those people, understand their background. So we can be successful, we can be unsuccessful. I think that's just the outcome, but I'm here for the process. So I think when you are here for the process, you start making like genuine interactions. And, I was like, hey, dude, like you sound so bad. We don't need to talk anything about the deal. So you just go rest and like we'll chat later. It's fine. Like you're not even in a good mindset. Like he felt so bad that he ditched me, 3, 4 days. But I said like that's fine. You're just, sick. You're a human being right now. Like not I mean, you're a human being, not just right now. So we are still human beings, but
But
you
I
know,
think that's so right. I think what's important in that scenario is that you moved the deal further along than you would have if you would have said, "Hey, I got a 20% discount for you." Because you showed the human side of yourself, the human interaction. That I think goes so much further than people give credit to. And I think it's largely because you can't quantify it. Humans inherently like things that they could quantify. You can't
yeah,
necessarily quantify that, but being both a seller and a buyer, I mean, you know this space. We're constantly buying our own tools and tech and services. Being a buyer for me, that human response means much more than some small monetary difference in price.
I do agree. Yeah, man. It's this humane component, and maybe like with the we can slowly move into more closing remarks or some sort of actionable takeaways. So I know like as a founder, we always have different takes or hot takes on existing legacy systems. So like how would you summarize the current this pre-research market, or like what would you know put on as an advice to these people looking for different things in the market? So happy to hear your.
The number one thing, and I say this all the time, I've said this to investors and partners, when everybody's personalizing the same way, no one's personalizing.
Yeah,
And that's where we are right now. I mean, look, Clay's a great tool and I use it all the time. I use it for all types of things, though, not just lead gen. I use it for research. It's a great research tool, especially if you want to research things at scale. But from a personalization standpoint, everybody's using it the same way. Everyone's using it, running the same playbooks or variations of the same playbooks. And when AI is allowing communication to seem progressively more human, the premium is always going to be placed on the real human. So I think going back to basics, we've kind of come full circle. Going back to basics and the ability to have a real conversation is ultimately what's going to drive the market forward. We saw the different phases. We saw the dialers, and then we saw the automation tools, the sales lofts of the world. Then you had the call recorders coming in. But no one, again, is taking that to a deeper level, and no one's using that to iterate their approach. They're all sort of using it out of the box. So I think my biggest takeaway is in a crowded space with AI tools everywhere, focus on what's going to make you different. Don't follow the crowd, because that's what's creating all of the noise. I'm looking, hats off to the guys at Clay. They raised 40 million at a $1.25 billion valuation. It's awesome. As a founder, I mean, what an awesome story to watch. But at the end of the day, all of their success would ultimately hurt the market, because everyone's going to be sending the exact same emails.
That's a good take because, like you said, once everyone is doing the same things, it's not different anymore, right? So everyone is right now sending you an email if you're a sales leader. Hey, I saw that you have 5 open SDR positions. I know you are hiring, so let me help you. Like they are probably getting hundreds of those messages. So how are you gonna cut the, like cut through the noise there? It's gonna be a different battle. It's gonna be different story. And you're definitely like onto something with your observation there. And like from my end, I think the biggest takeaway, especially in this space, so there's this analogy, right? Like the 80 to 20%. So it's so easy to come to the 80%. I think in the market, everyone is kind of doing the 80%, but no one is doing the remaining 20%. That's the actual percentage that will drive change or drive success. By the way, it can be unsuccessful. I'm not saying it's going to be 100% successful when you do that hard thing. But the problem is we are not even trying. We are not even like, um, you know, taking that risk. Everyone thinks, oh, if I try this AI thingy, or if I like not even AI, if I did try this tool, I'm kind of out of my comfort zone and I'm a mid-market company. I don't want to go out of my comfort zone. That's kind of scary. It is scary because the way that we train ourselves, it's wrong. We have to take that risk, that 20%. If I give you 5% more revenue, you're gonna love me. But I might not be able to give that 5% revenue, but I can still fine tune my approach to help you achieve that goal or the KPI. So we got to do the hard thing, and leaders should take like a little bit more risk there and trust the different solutions or differentiators they are seeing in this market because that's the underdog market. That's what I keep telling. Like, if you're a
And
good underdog, yeah,
that's why we made knowledge free. Like that's why we rolled it out as a freemium. And the thought was once somebody uses it, they're going to use it all the time. And we've seen unbelievable retention. People who are using it once are coming back day after day because of the fact that there's such a high quality there's such a high quality to the people that they're engaging with. The conversations are so much more rich. You know, you give somebody 20 names and they close one, and they're going to be a customer for life. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing, I had a customer get 20 auto prospects, 6 meetings. That's an unbelievable number.
it is.
I think it's really just a different approach.
It is, man. Yeah, I think you drop a lot of golden nuggets today here, Chris. I really appreciate your time, man. Thanks for, educating us, educating our broader community. We all gonna do better. But it was so lovely to chat with you, as always. So
I
I don't have
appreciate it.
anything
Thank
on
you for
my
having me.
end, but yeah, thank you so much for your time. And we will also share the recording with the folks that have been asking. And see you in the next webinar, folks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone.